Okay, I'm going to go by the clock on the wall because it's about a minute faster than one of my wrists, so that keeps things going.
Get you done sooner.
We have got a sign-in sheet coming around. We would appreciate you fixing your name so we know who's here. We have a couple of different activities going on this evening. This is part of our annual outreach program where we like to bring our town board meetings out into the community at various spots. This is actually the last evening of that, which is why we're here. We have a couple of presentations, and that may do it, but I also need to ask if there's anyone who, it's the first thing we do on these events, it's a work session, anyone who would like to make comment or address the board this evening. And if not, we'll move along with our program. The agenda, we have 3 items in there. They're quite interrelated in a number of ways. And I've got our director of our Youth Services Recreational Program last, so she can get a chance to hear everything, because much we're going to be talking about certainly crosses her paths, her program. Starting out, though, with the individuals from, or maybe Trevor, we're going to start with you with the Center for Earth and Environmental Sciences, our group that did a tour of Cadeville Park. We're kind of excited about what some of those possibilities are. So who might be addressing that topic?
I'm going to kick it off. I'm invited Dr. Fuller, the director from the CEES from SUNY Plattsburgh, to come this evening. Working with Mel and some other folks, we've been having some really thought-provoking conversations. How do we better utilize our natural resources within our park structure out in Cadeville? And reaching out to Dr. Fuller, he is a very dynamic faculty member, and he and his colleagues are doing some amazing things, everything from GIS all the way to things like identifying different group use in the environment. So we had organized kind of a walk in the park, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended in this case, to really kind of experience what are some of the things out there and how we can create a mutually beneficial relationship between the town and SUNY Plattsburgh. What's interesting is the college just recently underwent a new campus plan that really tries to tap into this idea of experiential learning. And the CES has been doing this for a number of years through internships, externships, shadowing programs, etc. And in speaking with Mel, we felt that there might be some possibilities or opportunities to do some collaboration, specifically with our trail marking program. So one of the reasons that I wanted Dr. Fuller to come today is, as we hopefully move this program forward, is there's a soft acceptance by he and his colleagues to work on a couple of projects, those being trail marking, so we can better utilize the trails out in the Cadeville Park. At something as simple as putting up blue tag, red tag, orange tags, or naming them, but knowing specifically what is out there can be very, very helpful. But it's also very helpful to our students because they can use the technology of GIS, so again, mutually beneficial. Possibly working on a stage 1 natural interpretive trail type of program where some of the faculty and their students would go out and find out, what types of trees, what types of leaves, moss, etc. And do some type of report and to give that back to the board and maybe explore doing some type of educational interpretive walk. We have a lot of schools in the area that take advantage of our resources. Again, it's a win-win because it's identification for our students, but it's also something that would be very unique to our municipality. Another faculty member has expressed an interest in doing a usage impact study, which I think is very dynamic. The Cadeville Park has hikers, walkers, bikers, folks with dogs, etc. And that's a lot of different types of individuals that use the group. What's the impact environmentally? Giving us a better sense, do we want to have the outer orange trail for biking? Do we want to have a blue trail for walking and hiking? Those types of studies can be very beneficial to us, and again, it gets back to our students and our faculty having some opportunities. The last part is creating a fourth category that's pretty wide, and that's identifying some areas as living labs. The college right now does a lot of things over in Burger Woods behind SUNY Plattsburgh. Well, to have the opportunity to do some stuff in the Katie'ville Rec Park would give them another opportunity to cross-examine or look at it from a different perspective, cross-analysis. And if some of the students are doing international conferences, papers, poster sessions, the Katie'ville Park would be referenced in any of those materials. So it gives them a different type of opportunity, but it also gives the town something to be excited by, and get by. So that's kind of setting the stage, but I really wanted to offer Dr. Fuller any opportunities to kind of speak about the general interest from your faculty in the center.
I don't think I can add a thing. You covered just about everything. I will say that we have probably at least 4 faculty members with expertise in geographical information systems mapping, animal ecology, wildlife ecology, forest ecology, wetlands ecology, different faculty members that would be interested in participating themselves and helping you learn more about the park and making use of it, and also getting their students involved in internships and things like that. And I think it's something that can be beneficial for both the student learning experience and for the town of Plattsburgh. And other than that, I think you've covered just about everything.
That's right. I'm glad that we're continuing on the same page, and just the excitement, has been really just great. After the walk, the best part of it for me was just getting that group together to have some conversations, and people kind of splintered off and had some really natural conversations of, oh, well, this is what I do, and this is what I do, and there was kind of a cross-pollination going on between some great ideas of the town, some really great ideas that the faculty had, and I believe that this can be a multi-year partnership. We have new students that are coming in every year, faculty interest, faculty focus, so there's a lot of opportunity there. And then it can potentially expand well beyond the Katie'ville Park.
Yes, I'd like to see it all over the whole county.
Yeah,
Yes.
we got
I want a trail system everywhere.
gotta kick it up though and move
Have to
forward.
start somewhere.
So, but Mel, do you have any thoughts and opinions as we try to keep this partnership moving
No,
forward?
I think it's gonna be very beneficial for everybody. I just see it's win-win for everybody. I'm very excited about it.
Grant opportunities are few and far between, but those that actually do get some funding are the intermunicipal multiple partnerships, and I could see some opportunity there to everybody's benefit also. What's my question is, there seems to be a lot of interest, certainly expressed here tonight too, some very solid ideas. What's the next step? What do we need to do next? Bob, do you see this happening as soon as this fall?
I do. I'm pretty confident that we'll get some students doing undergraduate research projects involving GIS and mapping trails as early as this fall. I have no doubt about that. Some of the faculty actually thought about developing projects in their classes this fall as well. So I see it starting sooner rather than later.
2 steps I'd like to recommend is, I'd like, knowing that we're kind of on the same page, kind of regurgitating what we've been talking about, is to assemble a very simple MOU that both the college and the town can own. And then the other part to it is, we've had other students doing internships here at the town, and like any state agency, SUNY Plattsburgh is a state agency, that there's forms and liability and so on and so forth. Thanks to Bernie and Deborah, we were able to find some examples of what other internships have done, so I can certainly share that with you and try to get that moving forward by either class projects or individuals.
I certainly had historical
Yeah.
internships and architectural. I mean, not architectural.
In the planning department,
Archaeological
we had,
as well.
in the planning department, we had intern last year, and we worked directly with
Right.
Bob for that, so I mean, we have a good precedent set for that, and we're, used to the forms, and we can make that readily available, what we did last year.
And there is a river that flows through there too, so I mean, they're just huge opportunities. I think formalizing would be good. I have a sense that you may have some organized notes of what some of the possibilities are. I'd like to have a copy of that for the file, but I see that as some of the, structure that we begin. I mean, it's there, it's public property. Certainly talking to Mel about what's going on, you don't want to have a group up there and there's, a race coming through, so there's some coordination of use of facilities. But having an MOU and some sort of relationship more formalized, I think begins to lay a good foundation for some future opportunities.
Would you like to set up a point person to develop an MOU with us?
That would be good. I think Mr. Cashman might volunteer to do that.
And I can do so for the-
I volunteer, that's okay, you're doing a good job.
Is this like the military where, no one steps forward and?
Well, the younger member, we're just saying.
No, I'm very appreciative of the relationship Dr. Fuller and I have started with this, and, I think we can get something fairly quickly. Again, I'm really, wanting to make sure that we stay within the timeline of our faculty that need to develop, course syllabi and things like that. So I would say you're gonna probably see something within the next meeting or two, so.
That would be great.
Well, it's there, that's what we purchased it for, to be used, so that certainly is not even a big part of the discussion, but formalizing something and something that we can build on and grow is really exciting. And as you know, a lot of other stuff going on with waterfront revitalization and, the walkable communities, et cetera. This is just great. Did anyone else have any other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? I'm not sure within the group who's with what topic tonight. We feel very positive about this project and where it might be in a couple of years from now. So we'll make it happen. Outstanding. Anyone else have any other thoughts, comments on that particular item? And I would encourage you, if you can, to stay a little bit because there are some other related topics coming up.
I just say, I really thank Mike for taking the lead on this and bringing this to the fore. I think this is great.
Number 2, Northern Forest Canoe Trail. And we have Mr. Cole. Trevor, do you have any more copies of the packet you put together? Any extras with you? If not, that's okay.
I don't.
All right, just ask.
Like the Saranac River, it's a long and winding tail. When did Walter first contact you?
About 3 years ago, I would say, 3 to 4 years ago.
So, a little background, the Northern Forest Canoe Trail is about a 740-mile blue water route, starting in about Old Forge, New York, and weaving its way across New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, making its way all the way to the ocean. Sort of like the Appalachian Trail for canoeists. And the overall, the organization Northern Forest Canoe Trail is a group that kind of stewards this route, making it easier for people to do it, promotes it, creates maps of the areas, works on developing camping locations along the way to promote, people using this blue water route as for through paddlers. Most people do it in shorter segments, about 40 to 50 people a year do it the whole thing. So it's, it's quite a, athletic adventure. And every now and then, actually just a few days ago, there was 2 people spotted out in Katy.
2 more have been spotted since then. So
Right.
it makes 4 in the last week.
And they're pretty easy to pick out because you'll say, who's walking with a canoe and a wheelbarrow? That's what it kind of looks like, but they have these really crafty units that hold their canoes, and you're like, why is somebody doing that? And why do they have all this gear? Good chance if you see them walking in that area, they're navigating the Northern Forest Canoe Trail. And really fit people generally. So starting about 3 years ago, a gentleman, Walter Opazinski, who is a director at the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, contacted Mel to initiate the process. He had identified, let's see what they say. They try to limit their distance between camping locations on this 740-mile route to no more than 15 miles if possible. The area between identified Union Falls and Lake Champlain is one of their areas of least amount of campsites. So they're way beyond what they prefer to the 15. Some of them are 30, 40 miles in between campsites. So they had somehow achieved some knowledge of our Lapeer Lane piece of waterfront on the end of Lapeer Lane in Morrisonville. In the hamlet, we have approximately 7 acres there of waterfront. And after several conversations with them, they really wanted to pitch the idea of us of making that basically an unimproved location that they could mark on their maps where people doing the through paddling would have a destination to stop. They've asked to install some improvements such as they take these large chunks of stone and they work with the DEC or whoever, if they can work within a permit to establish some steps down to the river, a picnic table, a sign pointing out to the river, Northern Forest Canoe Trail campsite or resting location. And so they've provided us with a package that asks for some minor improvements. The packet that you have before you also shows some things that are no longer part of the conversation, such as a privy and some, a fire ring and things like that. The last email you'll see attached to that packet is my last correspondence with a gentleman, Noah. I forget his last name at the moment. You'll see I outlined what the town would not accept if we were to join an agreement to have them develop this Forest Trail rest stop. Those items would be, we would not allow fires, we would not allow a privy to be constructed. The town doesn't really want to promote it as a campsite per se, but an allowable use for through paddlers to stop and rest, and if they're spending the night there, so be it. And very minimal signage, potentially a picnic table and a sign-in box so they can calculate their numbers of usage along the Blue Water Trail. So some of the main questions that were asked by the board of me were, hey, what about insurance? Which was one of the wisest questions. And I've since gone back to them and they've responded to me. And I have another email that I didn't get to print out for you because I just got it 5 minutes ago from Walter, which was they are insured fully for both the work they would perform there and for the users of the site. They can provide us with a policy. He wasn't able to provide that for this evening. He hopes to be able to get it to me within the next 2 or 3 days. That outlines that we would, and specifically asked who should be named on that policy, whether it's the town of Plattsburgh or some subcommittee that would be, the insured entity. So they can, they pitched that yes, we can cover those aspects of it. We talked to the DEC, asked about any permit conditions they would have to deal with for site disturbance. But again, the improvements that they're proposing are very minimal. A sign, a picnic table, really that's about it. And the sign-in sheet, and that's about it. They might want to clear a minimal area just so a tent can be laid in an event somebody actually does camp. At the rate of 40 per year and not everybody stops, it's minimal use. We've also identified that it's obvious that we want to talk to everybody in the community along Lapeer Lane, send out letters, let them know that this is a pending project and if they have questions to come in. It's an allowed use within the town in that district. Recreational uses and recreational spaces, town parks are already allowed within the zoning ordinance in that area of the town, so it doesn't require site plan review.
That is part of our environmental conservation
Yes, it
zoning.
is. It's in the land conservation district. The entire parcel is in the land conservation district. It wouldn't require any variances. So it's an ongoing discussion, but they seem to have been able to check off all the boxes of our concerns and our, issues that we were most concerned about. And, the potential benefit of the people through paddling, getting out. Hopefully, Mr. Trombley will finish building his store here in the corner, but that.
Well, I got Lucky's around the corner.
Got Lucky's. And those people would stop, and generally, these aren't, they're not vagabonds. A lot of these people who are traveling through are of the leisure class who have enough money to spend 3 months paddling through the Saranac.
Have you talked with any other towns that have partnered with them?
I have not.
Saranac actually is working on a campsite currently. They had approval, I think, 2 years ago through a waterfront revitalization grant. And I think they just started construction actually of their little area down by the waterfront where we actually use their put-in area. But they're gonna put a camp on there too. They'd spoken to them first, that's how I heard about it.
That'd be a municipal campsite?
No. When I say campsite, I'm talking about one little spot that's big enough for little.
For the
tent,
canoes?
picnic. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they
Is that-
spoke also to
Is
Sarah.
that town property in Saranac now?
Yes,
I'm just wondering, we always worry about when it's municipal property, the old deep pockets thing. I'm wondering how that works out for campers if somebody gets hurt on municipal property. We would probably have to talk to our insurance company about that, and I don't know if there's.
Probably no different than all the ball players we just saw down at Catherine Hayes. Somebody's gonna take a ball in the schnauzer and
Yeah.
you're covered.
It's public property, people can go there now, it's a public piece of property that some people do walk their dogs, every now and then, it gets mowed, so people are there already.
Right.
It's more, and I should point out that the cost of the improvements is zero to the town.
Right.
The Northern Forest Canoe Trail, they have a budget for this.
Don't misread what I'm saying.
No,
I
I
think
hear
this, I think this is great. I'm just concerned that the town should make sure that its own liabilities are kept in check.
Mhm. Yes, that, we are, I mean, nothing's gonna happen until we get their documents, creating us as an insured entity.
And again, I'd just be curious, to hear from, it's nice to know that we've got some, a neighbor, but
Mhm.
somebody that's had something established, that's seen some usage. I think it just fills out the picture a little bit.
And the majority of these sites, as I understand after talking to Walter, often they'll just take an easement from a farmer who's got, 100 acres of riverfront, and they'll take an easement for 1/8 of an acre, a 50 by 50 spot that's got the sign and some set posts, and that's where the people can stop. So a lot of their stuff is minimal to no improvement. Ours happens to be on the town public park, so they feel comfortable, hey, we can put a picnic table there and a sign. So they have varying levels of improvement that they do.
It actually would improve the site so that we could get boats down to the water from there if they put in those stops, the rock stops.
Yeah.
They don't have any reservation with other members of the community using the picnic table, using the spot for
no.
access.
No, they see it as, it's gonna be public infrastructure, it's our, I mean, it won't really be the town, they'll own the picnic table per se, but, it's public space, they know that it's gonna be used. And, I kinda asked him about all those things too, and asked him about, the potential for vandalism, and he gave me his honest opinion that they see very little, generally people doing the through paddling are of the kind who are gonna tread lightly, pack in, pack out.
It's not a high volume area for pedestrian traffic for us either. There's nothing going on there. It's a dead end street.
And with no signage out to the street, there's gonna be very little recognition that it's even there.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to see that, that the community didn't feel like, hey, all of a sudden we're advertising a campsite at the end of our dead end road. Because really the advertisement's to the river. That's the Northern Forest Canoe Trail's point. That's their interest, is to people paddling through. And we as a town don't have an interest in generating it.
Realistically, in this 740-mile route, if just upriver, Saranac has a designated area to camp.
You may make it to the lake the next day and you're gonna camp on the lake.
Sure.
So, even, I say there's maybe 40 people a year who do it, you're not gonna see 40 people a year camp there, because their options are varied along the way. They may want to get in a hotel. By the time they get to the campsite, they may want a hotel.
Are you saying that our weather isn't always beautiful?
Those black flies, I wanna pick them up and carry them down.
After you've been that far in the wilderness, yes.
And also, to be honest, in the really warm weather, as they get to the end, they're gonna be walking their canoes down Route 22, because that stretch of river right now is, ankle deep.
Yeah.
So it's it's gonna get low use.
Well, again, this fits into a bigger picture concerning waterfront revitalization and just a variety of initiatives. And for us to be on a 740-mile trail, I think is a good thing.
It would be advertised on their website, as a location and a community.
I say it's a good thing.
There was some talk, Mel, before about using that for an access point for town, for anybody in the communities. Is that still?
It's in our master plan. It certainly will happen someday, a little more formal than what it is now.
And would that interfere
To
with
both of us.
what they want to do?
No,
We can still go ahead with that
absolutely.
plan for the future?
As a matter of fact, we submitted but did not receive a grant last month for $15,000. We wanted to do a focused study of that parcel of wetlands and any check for archaeological significance at that site. As we move out into the Saranac River Trail, that site will be an obvious location of either a spur trail or an attraction along the way. But a requirement of that in the future anyway is going to be wetland study, and to find out if there's any historical significance in that area. The state will require it. We didn't get the grant at this time. We hope we've received sort of indication that put the grant back in, and hopefully in the next round of funding we'll be able to complete that project.
It's a nice location along the
Beautiful.
river, and we need public access along the river, so many houses that prevent it. And I know when we're talking about this Saranac Trail, where we're gonna walk, that just one spot that might have been a spur or something.
This fits pretty perfectly into the comprehensive plan and the recreation master plan, Clinton County destination master plan.
That's one of the nice things about what we did Friday with the county, the city, the town, other interested parties, is to begin to help us see the bigger picture. We kind of sit down and talk about this particular end of that street. It can be maybe not even worth a lot of discussion or risk-taking,
Right.
but when you see the bigger picture, this just becomes one of the spokes we put in place. And, I commend you for pushing that.
Trevor, one more question. Have they been made aware of the fact that every so often there's major ice damming and
Yep.
flows?
Which is why their improvement to the riverbank is a couple of stone blocks.
Okay.
That really just a step, and then they actually have a really neat technique, and it might be outlined in here, how they build these structures to minimize the eddying that happens, so there's not an increase in erosion.
Okay.
And they will probably pull up and move the picnic table in the winter, and it's only held down by one of those
Right.
corkscrew things. They may cement it in, but they'll probably pull
So
it
the
up.
skiers that come through won't be able to stop it?
And as this is a 740-mile blue water route, won't be the first picnic table they've seen in the last season. It's part of their whole program. They're professionals at Kansas.
And at some point, as this works its way forward, we're kind of now, let's not make a big splash here for a number of appropriate reasons, but at some point, I think you want to make a statement that we're on this
Yeah.
Northern Forest Canoe Trail, and that's important.
Right.
We want people to take advantage of that. Good. Does anyone have any other questions, comments? Because as I said, 2 or 3 of these things tend to fold together. Yes?
Okay, meshing this site with the pedestrian, bicycle, all that trail, could conceivably wind up with somebody on a picnic table when somebody comes up with a canoe. We'll work with that. Is there, this is probably a question for Mel as well, is there land access to the site such that somebody might come down with their own kayak and put in there?
Yep, there's actually a small area that we potentially have a small parking area, maybe 5 or 6 spots.
Okay,
It's kind of there now, it's not formal, it's not marked, but there's enough room to put 5 or 6 cars. And there's a mowed path that Jim Woods goes in and mows a couple times a
back
year.
in, okay,
So you can walk in with your, small boat,
okay.
canoe, kayak kind of thing. There's just not real nice access to water from there as a bank.
Oh, it's a
Pretty
bank
steep
until we
bank.
put the steps in.
Yeah,
So that would make it
it would.
more usable
Yep.
for that group, and for hikers that go down and bring out a rag or something and throw that around their necks if it's getting really warm,
Mhm.
like that.
It's a decently popular fishing spot already. I've gone down there, my lunch break, I see people down there all the time.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's nice.
Is there any requirement on the trail, the Blue Water Trail side, that you have so much water?
Well, that's dictated, usually the biggest course of people who are doing this through paddling are after the freshet. They want the high, not raging water,
Right.
but they need the high water. So many parts of the Saranac in particular can be really low, and that stretch is one of them. So that's why I was always saying, this time of year, or in another week or two, you're probably gonna see people, if they're coming through, they're gonna be bringing their boat down the sidewalk through Morrisonville and not doing that stretch probably, because it'll be low right there.
Yeah.
And these people, a lot of the folks have a nice Kevlar canoe that you're not so happy to be dragging across the bottom of the river.
So your maps are both the Blue Water and Portage alternate route around.
Yeah, and I'm not with the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, but I've been on their website, and yeah, they have a really comprehensive mapping scheme for different locations, and 56 miles of it are portage, so there's some areas where people have to get out, and I think the longest is a 12-mile non-water stretch. So, but most of them are short. Like, you know, obviously, people aren't going over the falls and Kent Falls, you know, so. They
Saves
gotta,
time.
they gotta head out on the road. So even in the town of Plattsburgh, there's some significant walking portions.
Carve up, eat in Michigan.
Okay, anyone else? If not, we appreciate it. I don't think you've heard a word of discouragement, and we just have a couple of T's to cross, a couple of I's to dot, primarily insurance kinds of issues, and let the community know in the event they see someone that this is an allowable use for them as well.
We'll keep the plan out, we'll send the letters out and allow them time to come in and make comment.
Good. All right, the next item, and it's another reason why Mel's here, you have as a draft resolution, I believe, I'm looking for it, yes, resurfacing tennis courts. I don't know if you might want to jump ahead to that one a little bit, just have it handy. Mel would like to address us on that. This is something we do on a regular basis, but we don't regularly take time to discuss what it is about. So that is a draft that's in there. And Mel, why don't you just bring us up to speed?
Basically, the letter I submitted shows the schedule that we're on right now to have the court done. We have 8 double courts in the town of Plattsburgh and 1 single court. So we try to do 1 to 2 a year so that we're not waiting every 10 years, because after about 3 to 4 years, the paint fades. Some of the courts, there's a little bit of puddling because they've kind of settled a little bit. So there's a lot of fading and stuff. So we try to keep it on a 5-year schedule. Currently, we're on a 6-year schedule, which is close. Cumberland Head, when we redid that in 2008, needed extensive work. There was a huge crack about that wide down the middle of it. So there was a lot of expense trying to fill that and fix it. So now we're on a 6-year schedule. We're restarting that location again, back to Cumberland Head. All it includes is repainting. There's 2 coats of paint and restriping all the courts. So it'll dress it up for, hopefully it'll last at least 4 to 5 years, maybe 6 if we have to go that long to stretch.
What?
You wanna know about pickleball? Let me tell you about pickleball. Pickleball has been mentioned more times in my office this year than it has in the last 20 years. I don't know what's going on with people coming back from Florida.
Florida tennis.
Pickleball is a game that's played on a smaller version of a tennis court. It's a little bit smaller. The net is about 4 inches shorter, but it's similar. It looks very similar, it's just smaller. And it's played by folks a lot more as doubles than singles, because it's a lot easier to play with a partner. You play with a wooden paddle, like paddle ball on the beach. You got a little paddle, you play with a ball. It's just like that. It's a paddle, and you have a wiffle ball. Looks like a wiffle ball, and that's what you use. So there's not a lot of bounce. So there's not a lot of action when you hit it. You know, like you hit with a tennis ball. Sometimes you get under it and it's gone. You won't have that with pickleball. There's a lot less pounce from the ball. It just kind of falls back.
Tennis for us older folks.
It's kind of like ping pong on a tennis court with a big ball. Yeah, it's definitely the latest rage. And the funny thing is Aaron and I sat in on a webinar on last Friday or Thursday. It was Thursday. We sat in on a webinar that was put on by the AARP about activities for seniors. The baby boomers coming up, all these new program trends and stuff. And we are right on the mark with this. Pickleball was mentioned. I said, oh my God, there it is again. So we're certainly working with some folks in the community, and we're going to set one up. I'm not positive where we're going to do it yet. I kind of picked up Treadwell's Mills to do it there. I'm also thinking about West Plattsburgh because it's very protected there from the wind. So we're going to look at those places.
Is that something that might be used by the residents at Arthur Fave Senior Housing?
Very well, very possible, yeah. I don't know how active they are there, but you know, it's pretty close to Roderick Rock, too, and there's lots of community around there, yeah.
Okay.
But we certainly are gonna try it, I actually have a net I'm gonna put up, I'll take down one of the tennis nets and put up the pickleball net, and then we'll restripe it and just see what happens. I think we might have, I don't know if you saw the city, they've been inundated this year too. They're actually doing a clinic indoors in their gym, for the whole summer. You can go, you can just show up and play.
And you don't want to get the wrong stereotype of that. It's a pretty active
Oh,
sport.
it's very active, yeah.
It's not just for, last step before the chair.
No, it's interesting.
Which chair are we talking about?
The big chair.
So we're working on pickleball. Bernie
All
has been pickleballing in my ear for the last month. Every time I see him, hey, you heard anything on pickleball yet?
You got to be on the cutting edge. Disc golf's
We are.
going to be passe.
Well, I don't know if it's passe, a lot of people are going out to just don't play it.
Yeah. Yep.
You look at disc golf, that was something unheard of 3 years ago, and look at how it's bloomed.
I have a question on this, was there any other quotes besides the one that we have?
There was two. There should be two in your packet.
I have
One right behind the other one. Those are the two companies in Vermont that we most often deal with. I've often sought quotes from a company in Syracuse, but they just don't want to come out this far to give us a quote. It's just not worth it for them.
Okay, so we met the requirements of soliciting.
Mel, I wonder if that's something in a shared service frame of mind with the city, with the university that also has tennis courts that, you mentioned there are other companies, but it's not worth coming up here to do my court.
Right.
But maybe if we had 4 or 5 bids out there at the same time,
Yep.
we might all benefit from
Yep.
it.
Yep.
That's a
Certainly.
chunk of change. You don't want them to go to disrepair. It's a loaded question, I guess, but I don't go to the parks like I used to. And I was telling Jim earlier, I remember, standing in line and growling at some of the people that were out there because I wanted my turn to go play. We'd play until you couldn't see anymore or breathe anymore. And it seems like that doesn't happen to that degree at all.
I think it just depends on where you are. May Courier, I see that
I see
as
that
a
at May
very
Courier a
active,
bit, yeah.
active. Katie'ville, there were folks up there this morning when I went up with Sarah and I. It just depends, I think, on the time of day. I don't know, unless we park somewhere at each court, I couldn't tell you how much is used.
Saturday, they were playing with Katie.
Yep.
Mel, I can't say this for certain, but I think that Plattsburgh may be doing their own courts.
They paint their
Steps.
own. Boy, that's quite a project, I'm surprised by.
But because they've had two different courts. They've had the back courts and they've had the ones down near McDonald, and not like the ones that the tennis folks have been using. But you may want to check with them.
Yeah, I know they use a special rubberized type of paint, so I'm surprised they.
I'm amazed at what our maintenance crew is taking on more and more of them.
Do you think you can follow up on that before the 2nd?
Sure, yeah.
Be worth doing.
Before when?
The 7th?
Yes, plenty of time. Well, how many activities have we got this week anyway? Not just
Yes.
100,
That works. Any other comments for Mel concerning the tennis courts, the process, pickleball, any other related items?
Yes,
Yes.
there is a company up by Governor, it's Parker Line Striping.
Parker line striping?
Correct.
And they resurface courts or just do the lines? Do
I
you-
think they just do the lines.
Okay, yeah,
I mean, they'll stripe your parking lot, they'll stripe your
right, right,
court.
okay. So they do the lines, but they don't do the actual surfacing?
I don't believe so, we can check with them, but I know they do this striping.
Okay, I can ask. They must have a website, huh?
Yes,
Yeah, thank you.
and it's a New York company.
Yep. Oh, I hear you. I hear you. I know. I looked, believe me, I'm a member of the New York State Parks and Rec, and we look within each other, we have vendors and stuff like that, and it's hard to get people to come up here to do stuff like that. Yes, it is, unfortunately.
so if we do the Cumberland Head this year, we're on our 6-year schedule?
Yep.
See, it was 7, it looked like 7, but I guess it's 6.
Well, I will probably try to squeeze another one with Treadwell's Mills. Right now it's by itself. But when we come around to Cliffhaven, I might put Treadwell's Mills with that so we double it back up. I'm not sure how they got split like that, but.
It seems to me we did 2 at a time, sometimes before.
Yeah. Last year we did too, Kate Willie's Morrisonville.
Okay, I'm going to push to a couple of resolutions that we had this evening, and I've spoken with Trevor about staying just a pinch longer as we go into one concerning paving. He may be helpful if there are some questions. As always, you have the minutes from the previous meeting. Please look through those. If you see something, hopefully you'll see it at some point before 4 p.m. next Monday on the 7th. Let us know. Resolution 215 is next. Rick, do you have that one? Which is authorization to transfer funds maintained at Key Bank to TD Bank and close accounts at Key Bank.
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh maintains numerous bank accounts, escrow accounts, and checking accounts with various financial institutions, and whereas an attempt to eliminate duplication, operate more efficiently, and to eliminate and save ongoing escalating bank maintenance fees, the finance manager of the town of Plattsburgh has researched and examined the status of the aforementioned account and has recommended that the same be closed and moved to an existing facility so as to save ongoing bank maintenance fees. Therefore, be resolved that the town supervisor of the town of Plattsburgh is hereby authorized to transfer funds from Key Bank money market account to TD Bank money market account, and that the supervisor of the town of Plattsburgh is hereby authorized to sign any and all related documents to order the effect of the foregoing. And it be further resolved that the town supervisor of the town of Plattsburgh is authorized to close accounts listed below. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Cashman, any discussion?
This is gonna save us some money, right? This is one where they're charging.
We wouldn't move it if it cost us, I guarantee
So we're
you.
not gonna have to pay the fees that,
I can't tell you there will be no fees, but the fees
Oh, yeah,
are
they're a lot
slowly
less,
getting
though.
to be out of control.
I think
Um,
we researched all this to do it.
We've
I think-
spent a great deal of time on this, the finance manager has, and I mean, it's very frustrating to think we're letting banks hold millions of dollars, and they want us to pay for that privilege. But it's the way it is. TD will be a savings. I'd like to say it would be, huge, but that doesn't happen in banking anymore. But it is improved. As you know, the finance manager is also going out for request for qualifications. We're going to looking at that whole picture. It needs to be upgraded. The old try to fairly give everybody who has a branch in the town some town business just isn't affordable anymore. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Michael Cashman?
Yes.
Gerard Renadette?
Yes.
Bernie Bass?
Yes, the resolution carries. Now, the next couple that we don't have, be careful with the ink. These are a little wet, so. As I mentioned earlier, we have, Ricky, I don't think you have one. There's one in this pack for Ricky as well. As I mentioned, do I have my original there that is not stapled? Our next meeting is July 7th. That's a little bit of a stretch for us. There are a lot of municipalities meet once a month. It doesn't get the job done here. This is an item we need to take a look at. I would ask, first of all, for it to be read, and then we can have some discussion. This is Resolution 216, Subdivision Paving Policy Amendment.
Whereas the town highway superintendent has made recommendations for the town of Plattsburgh subdivision paving policy to help meet budget limitations and to develop an effective road paving program in the town of Plattsburgh. And whereas the town does not want to discourage development or cause certain projects that may qualify to lose the opportunity to finalize their preliminary plans as are nearing completion. Therefore be resolved that as per Highway Superintendent Recommendations, letter dated June 23rd, 2014, Resolution 06-172 be amended to allow projects to be completed and have their approval of their primary planning and with said project accepted and dedicated as the town public road for the top coat paving to be done at a later date to allow the highway department ample time to place the asphalt top coat as appropriate to the department's schedule. It is further resolved that the cost of all materials will be paid by the developer and installed by the highway department according to department standards, with a set monetary value that will be deposited with the town as determined by the highway superintendent, based on the current material rate. And to be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the highway superintendent, planning and codes department, and the finance manager.
Have a motion. Mr. Woods, second.
Second.
Mr. Cashman. Now, we can have some discussion. I apologize dropping this on you, but this came to me today as well, and Trevor's here because this is rooted in a particular issue. Take a second and read through Mr. Wood's letter. At some point, we need to have, and I've asked Jim to meet with his highway committee to take a look at the town's policy. As we've been doing, we regularly do, to make sure policies are current with current needs. The top coat, for example, where I live, has never been done. That project's been on the books for a number of years. There are a number of streets that have never had the top coat for a variety of reasons. If you go back to before 2006, if a developer was putting a road in, building 4 or 5 houses, the town would go in and build the road. At 100% of the town expense, took the road over. We corrected, and I use the word corrected, that in 2006. And as you recall, we had a little bit of a window of opportunity for projects that were currently going with the expectation that the road would be built by the town, and then of course turned over to the town. And they maybe hadn't put the expense of that into the project, so we gave them until the quarry closed that fall of the year we made the adjustment. And then the other piece of that was that the project would then place a bond with the town, I believe, correct anything please that I say wrong, I wouldn't go too far, that would put the bond with the town for the top coat to be done at some time in the future. That hasn't happened in many cases. In some cases it has. Feathers Drive, for example, has the top coat on it. Jim has some concerns about the timeliness of that. He believes the armor coat, the base is sturdy. It certainly holds up well to wear. It's not as subject to extreme temperatures and then extreme weight that will deface it. Asphalt, as we know, has become enormously expensive. We've cut just about in half our highway plan. It's a little more expensive than resurfacing tennis courts, so we're out of that cycle. What this does in summary is, in certain situations, it will allow a road that has yet to receive the top coat be completed, obviously with approval of the highway superintendent, that it meets all our specs and things, done at the cost of the project. This would allow that road to be approved, taken over by the town, with the top coat to be done at some later date. And the cost of that, as determined by the highway department, based on the length of the road and the cost of materials. Then we go in and put it in as we have been doing. That really is the change. Now, there's a reason there are 2 resolutions, and that's because the second one is somewhat driving the first, because we have an immediate need to, an immediate request to exercise this option. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, and I think you should take things in a little bit in isolation. This particular resolution would simply enable a road to be taken over by the town once it meets the specs, etc. And with the funds on deposit for the top coat, but not require the top coat to be done within 1 year, as is the current policy.
Would the funds be, what it cost at that particular year?
Correct.
And they're gonna have the total amount deposited with us?
Correct.
So when the price goes up 2, 3, 4 years hence, when they build on more of the road, and then we decide, okay, they're gonna put top coat on, and we're stuck at the lower amount.
That's a possibility, Tom. And that's not a possibility, I would imagine that is guaranteed to happen. The only way around that would be to go in and get the top coat done sooner.
Well, how long is
Part of it.
Or we might not even get to that top coat until it economically is feasible.
Well, that's another point. How many years do you go without putting top coat?
That's where the department, the committee needs to work on a new policy, get that to us so we can review that.
Well, I'm saying if you don't need top coat, that's why we'd save money right there.
For us, it would be.
So
And-
why put it down anyway?
The number, it's curb appeal to a great extent. The number of roads, I don't know if you know, Trevor, the number of roads that don't have a top coat, town roads, or the ones that do, I would guess more don't,
Many more don't.
many.
We're on about, and I'm only gonna paraphrase Jim, so I'm gonna channel Jim right now, but I don't wanna speak directly for him, but, we're on about a 20-year cycle with a lot of the roads. So, we used to be on a 10-year cycle, and now, with finances the way we are, it takes about 20 years to do a lap of paving around the town. And we are only doing about 5 miles of road a year. We have about 99 miles, I believe. And so, one of the main points of this was, in a perfect world, when you do a subdivision, they would build all the 10, 20 houses all at once. And it would make sense to top coat that road immediately. It's a done project, put to bed. But with the physics and of paving, it really is not practical or a best practice to put down on top of, the binder, then the top coat, and then drive heavy equipment over a full length of road, concrete trucks, excavators to build the next 10 houses. Now you've ruined your top coat. So convention in a lot of places is to put the binder down and drive on it for 5 years. Until the majority of development in the area is done, then you top coat it, and at that time you can improve any deficiencies that have remained.
Is that scenario common where they, like, the scenario I'm asking about is it common where you build 3 houses and wait 10 years and build another 3?
Yeah, specifically, you'll probably see the next resolution. We have this scenario in Heritage Heights now where, we just got a subdivision approved, and that one's been built over years and years and years slowly, and in fact, none of it has top coat. And now the new leg of it just got approved for 5 lots with the potential of 12 more. There's only one house built on it, on a 600-foot road. That road, if it were had a top coat put on it tomorrow, would get beat the entire length of the next 12 houses as you put in 12 new basements.
Does top coat cause it to last longer than road?
Probably. And the thicker the top coat, the longer the road.
So when you don't have the top coat, it wears out quicker.
Maybe. Depends on the road use, so like Bernie mentioned where he lives, the road's good. If it's a low traffic road, it'd probably last.
Long time anyway.
Yeah.
Residential, right?
Residential, it's the high traffic roads that really get.
The only thing I think there's something here that we talked about on a case-by-case basis. I would think if we're gonna have top coat, we have top coat. If we're not gonna have it, we haven't. But it seems unfair to say to one contractor, you put on top coat, the other one you don't.
I think the reason for that provision was if you're having a subdivision where somebody is gonna go in, for example, JCEO project over here was built, they actually did the top coat, the whole project was built, done project. There would be no lag where the.
But you're saying that's rare, is that correct?
Yes.
In most cases it is, yeah, just in the pace of development in the North Country's slow.
From a comptroller's view on this, what happens if we take the money for putting down top coat and we hang on to it for 10 years and top coat doesn't go down? How long can we hang on to it before the comptroller's office starts saying, what are you gonna do with all this money?
The way we've envisioned this, that's a good question. The way we've envisioned this working is the funds would be placed in the department with the understanding that that job would be done at some point in the future. but not tagged to a particular project.
So you're gonna accept money for a subdivision to put top coat down, but it's not specifically going to go towards that set of roads?
It almost becomes irrelevant because the work has to be done. The money's in the account.
Yeah.
It's not
And
like,
again, I'll go back to the
Yep.
case where, you said you've been in the subdivision that's been there for 20 plus years, and the roads have never been top coated. What if Maglienti had given the money for top coating on that subdivision, some number of roads of it, and it's still sitting there 20 years from now? Or it was expended in the highways budget for paving, and now you still don't have those roads paved.
Yeah, I think we got a point. I think if you're allocating it for a particular area, you better use it for that. Not only that, I think in anything, we don't set a time limit. We've got to set some, otherwise it just go on forever.
Yeah, exactly, because if the cost of the products that need to go up, should the town, take on the responsibility for the difference? Or now do you wanna have to go back to the developer and say, well, it's gonna cost you X number of dollars more, and then they say, well, I don't really have that cash on me now, and then it delays it by another year. It's this
Or the
volleyball back
developer's out
and
of
forth.
business.
We
Well,
see,
right, but I'm just,
Yeah.
there's so many different ways to go about this.
we've seen a huge jump in asphalt in just a short period of time. To accept $25,000 to top coat streets in 2014 and have it turn into $75,000 in 2024, that's
No,
a
why-
huge burden.
That's why you can't have it open-ended. I don't think.
the complexity of this particular situation, what if, and it really gets into the second resolution, what if you had a street that was planned for 6 houses? In order to get a certificate of occupancy, that road has to be turned over to the town, it has to be finished. Under the current town policy, the developer would put a bond down, and within a year, that work would be done, which gives you the time constraints and its focus. So we may want to carry that forward. But what if that first house sold, and the next one might be done in a year, and then a couple more in a year or two, or whatever the market will bear? But the owner of that house, the prospective buyer, can't go in because we haven't turned the road over to the town, and we don't want, our highway department doesn't want to have a binder put on that now, because it could be 3, 4, 5 years that we're still hauling heavy equipment in there. It really becomes a measurable problem. So what we're trying to do with this is have an option to be able to go forward. And maybe the clarity of this is that there is a time limit, that it is tagged to a particular project, such that if at the end of 5 years, the top coat doesn't go down, then the money would be returned plus accrued interest to the project. I don't know.
Can I offer another option, and that would be that within 5 years, the town of Plattsburgh would top coat that road, and if future development takes place after that 5-year time period, then the developer has to pay for improvements to the road that's been top coated that he has damaged as a result of the construction.
We talked about that a little bit because this would be a town road. And there is a 1-year warranty, I think, on the time of paving. Any excessive damage because of construction, I don't know, maybe you do put that in. Again, this evolved, and that's why I mentioned be careful, the ink's a little wet. I think I printed this out about 4:30.
Bernie, can I add a little something?
Yes.
I think what you were trying to explain is the crux here, is that our subdivision requirements in the town are inextricably linked to the paving policy, such that if you have somebody subdividing land in the town and creating a town road, the crux is that that subdivision is not complete and final until all improvements are accepted by the town. Therefore, you couldn't sell a lot, you could build a house, but nobody could buy it and get a certificate of occupancy to live in it until all the requirements of the subdivision were met. One of those
Including the top
requirements, as is now, is including that top coat to be installed within a year of the town bond. And so we run into these situations where someone subdivides, creates 10 lots for future development, develops 1 or 2 houses, it only made sense to do binder, because they might build a 500
Right.
foot road. It only makes sense to do binder, because you know you're gonna build. But our requirement is linked to the town policy such that, well, we can't give them final subdivision approval or a certificate of occupancy because we're requiring them to put the top coat on, yet it's not really a practical application of paving to do that. So we've, in effect, linked two things in a way that don't work harmoniously.
Has this been a problem in the past?
I
Or have
think-
we not followed the policy?
You don't need to answer that right now.
Highway superintendent.
There you go.
It's good.
That's the one.
That is a good.
For me, I think it still goes back to the fact that if we're gonna, accept money, I wanna know where the money's coming
Yeah.
from later on.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a problem to run it that way.
Right,
I don't think
but-
that's a problem at all.
But I want that out there though. I
The
think
the
if
bigger
we're-
problem is if we don't pave it, do the top coat for 5 years. Obviously, if we got $9,000 in 2014, it's maybe gonna cost 10 or 12 or more.
Well, that's why I think we ought to have maybe like a 2-year limit on it. And someone say, well, what about if, it doesn't get developed for 20 years? You can't have every policy that matches everything perfectly, They say
Should we-
perfect is the enemy of good, and you
Should
can't.
we have a reasonable expectation that if development takes place 10 years later and the road is damaged as a result of the work that took place?
I think that it gets too complicated. I think you have to, maybe you can have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, some reasonable time, and just do it in that time. And if it costs the town more, then it costs the
Well,
town more.
what if you divorce the two? What if you give a certificate of occupancy for the house, we don't take over the road yet?
Can't,
They can't because the subdivision, part of our own subdivision regulations, as well as
We kept it going for.
county regulations for subdivision require that you meet all requirements of the subdivision policy. Part of the approval process from the planning board when approving a subdivision is that you meet all requirements, and if it's a subdivision specifically, it's improvements. If it were on a subdivision on Durand Road that already had road frontage, it wouldn't be a conversation. But when you built a new town road and part of your subdivision approval is based on acceptance of those improvements, we're not gonna accept and approve the subdivision until that road is constructed the way the paving policy says. In this case, the paving policy says you must, which happens to not be practical in a lot of cases here in our country.
Well, I'm saying, you're talking about changing this, amending this now. What if we just amend it to divorce the two?
We can't amend Clinton County subdivision regulations.
We can ask them to.
I don't think they're gonna do that.
I think we might as well go back to dirt roads. They're not spending all that money. We can't afford what we're doing now. It's impossible to fill that, the cost of this stuff, and then the fact that your water's not going into the ground in the second place, it's just not working with all the paving. So this is a conundrum, I understand it, but.
I think we need
Yeah,
to do
it's like a
within
box on that.
about a 2-year window, because, if Trevor has shared with us that we're on approximately a 20-year cycle to get through all the roads now, then if we go any further than that, the roads are gonna be misplaced. It's gonna be an accounting nightmare to figure out, is it this year or is it next year?
But it's impossible to do unless you raise the taxes a lot, because with the caps and everything, we're just gonna get further and further behind. We cannot catch up and do what we used to do with the roads.
As I'm listening to the discussion, some good points are coming up. One of the things I heard mentioned, and it hasn't been elaborated on more, was to protect the town from inheriting an excessive cost as a result of the right time to top coat it might be out some distance. What if we amended this to indicate that the project at the time where we're going to turn the road over, will deposit with the town into an account for that project the cost of materials to top coat at that time and point, that date, with the understanding that at whatever time it's deemed appropriate by the highway department or the project, if it's 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, additional payment will be made to cover the cost in full.
Well, the only problem is you get out, I don't know, I just think it's a real burden on the highway superintendent if there's no firm date. You get a developer and he says, look, I can't do it this year.
But then we'll give them a 5-year window and they pick up the increased cost. I just don't think
Just
for
stop
a
the
project
subdivisions.
who's enough
Don't do any more
to say it's
subdivisions.
built out sufficiently where there won't be
I'll go.
damage.
I guess part of it, I mean, I realize that the ink is wet and so on and so forth, but I really like Jim's way and, you know.
We spent quite a bit of time with them today. We're echoing Jim's words.
But what I'm saying though is, where is that sweet spot from Jim? Is it 5 years? If it's 10 years, I would argue that seems a little lengthy to me. So is it, you know, is it
Well, I don't
2,
think
is
there's
it 3,
any,
is it
I
5? You know?
don't think any perfect independence of it. Why don't we just say 3?
Jim wasn't
He would tell you
concerned
that
about the
they're-
win at all.
He wasn't,
No.
okay.
He was
He would,
concerned
he would be
to
quick to tell you that there are any number of subdivisions where 3 years is not a problem at all. I mean, the roads are fine at the end of 3 years. They're not in need of the top coating at that point in time. So it varies.
Well, that's right. I just think.
Well, if he doesn't need it for 20 years, I'm saying, why do it in the first place?
Why do the top coat at all?
It's in the policy. The problem gets back to, the policy states you'll do it or you don't get the CO. And that's what we're identifying as become, well, we need to. But this, right now, next resolution, you've got a home that's sold and ready to be occupied, and we need to take that road over and not be restricted by the binder. If we make them put the binder down now, it doesn't.
Well, I don't think.
I haven't
yeah, I
seen
don't
that
think-
resolution.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't mean
think,
binder top coat.
yeah, I don't think anybody's arguing here that they want to put the top coat on. I think all they're saying is we should have a clear policy, and the question is it gonna be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? I think people are saying 20 years is not appropriate.
Yeah.
And I think we're just talking about the year.
Okay. Let me put on the table then, that it would be done within 5 years.
And it's permeable.
Well, let's not go there. Let's keep this as simple as we can. The top coat would be done within 5 years. And everybody good with that? If that's the item we're down to?
How long has it been since he added any houses to that project?
It hasn't been that long. There's
Phase
ongoing
two.
continuous growth.
Are you talking about
but-
Heritage Heights?
Phase
Heritage Heights, he's added houses to that project.
Yeah.
Phase 3, 2 years ago, the frontage on Conway.
But let's,
But what I'm saying is, yes, he has, and he adds this one, this one, this one, but you get the same problem. It's, how many years are you gonna go out? I mean, how many?
Well, Bernie made a suggestion of
5 years.
5 years.
5 years.
So, call
And keep in mind, we need to look at the policy right away. This resolution can be subject to change based upon the change in the policy.
Well, if we put it out 5 years too, and we change the policy in the meantime, we could potentially change the result of this altogether.
Absolutely.
So 5 years, my vote is yes.
We're just dealing with a situation right now that gets us to the second resolution.
I really don't think we should be voting.
Well, it's on the table, we're
You
gonna
put it
have,
on the table, but you didn't give us these things ahead
I
of
didn't
time.
have it.
Yeah, so it's a last minute thing. Somebody's
I
asking
know
something
it is.
special from the town again.
I know it
And
is.
I'm saying, no.
You can say no when it's time to vote. We've amended this to be done within a 5-year period. Okay, and that seems to be the amendment. We're to some great ideas that I think need to be incorporated when you look at that policy. And Tom, you're on that committee, so we want to get on that right away. The tough question at Trevor was about, so have we not done this or whatever? That is a tough question, but the point is right now, we're aware of a situation where the policy is not a good one for the project, for the people that want to buy the home, and for the short-term future.
Well, what's the second resolution?
The second one is going to be a particular request to take advantage of the change in the first.
Well, what if we don't do that and we just let them have their,
We can't, we'd be breaking our own law. We can't just give the C of O, because right now, the policy
can't
is
they pave that one house? Or pave that one road right to the house?
cop job. You don't want to do that.
Well,
The road's
that's
done.
what we're doing anyway.
Keep in mind, the road's done. It's just the top coat. The road's done to spec, it's ready to go, it's just the top coat clause of that policy. And
If
we've
he
had,
builds- If he builds a second house town, if he builds,
I understand,
that
and I
road
understand all that, we've been
that
through all
top
the
coat will
arguments.
get torn to hell.
Yep, and I understand all those arguments, but this is, the policy should have been addressed before.
But Tom,
it wasn't a problem until
But
tonight.
Tom, it wasn't addressed, and, you know, local government, unfortunately, you sometimes have to cobble something together to move things forward. We have a citizen that wants to move into a house, we have a local developer that's raised money and, you know, is putting money into our economy. It's a win-win situation for both of these people, you know, and that's why I'm voting to support it with a 5-year window and to immediately look at the policy, and within our next meeting, let's get a draft going and solve the problem.
I move to table.
We've got a motion to table, is there a second? Is there a second? Without a second on that, I think we've had the discussion. Ricky, let's have a roll call.
Thomas Wood,
No.
Martin Danick,
Yes,
Michael Cashman,
Yes, with a footnote that we look at it.
okay,
Yes.
and Bernie Bass.
Yes, resolution carries as amended for the top coat to be in place within a 5-year period. Now, let's take a look at 217 that I'm about to distribute to you.
Will this one be shorter, Woody?
That's up to my colleagues. I have no control over that. And one going down for Rick.
Just like the previous supervisor, just change the policy for
Don't
the road.
go compare me to others.
I'm saying,
I know you are, I'm
and
here.
it's the same thing.
I'm telling you not to do
you're
it.
being insulted.
Resolution 217, accepting a new town road, Freedom Drive.
Whereas Resolution 14-216 acknowledges the need for certain projects to have extension of time to replace the final asphalt top coat on new subdivision road. Whereas in a letter dated June 23, 2014, the highway superintendent has requested that the town accept a new town road known as Freedom Drive, located in Heritage Heights subdivision, that has been inspected and meets town specifications. And whereas it is in the best interest of the department that a type 6 asphalt top coat is not installed within 1 year due to the ongoing construction taking place on that new road. Therefore, it be resolved that as per Highway Superintendent's recommendation, Freedom Drive be accepted and dedicated as a public town road with a top coat paving to be done at a later date, allowing the highway department ample time to place the asphalt top coat as appropriate to the department's schedule, and when the project is substantially completed. And it is further resolved that this waiver will not be removed, that the developer's responsibility of all costs of all materials to be installed by the town highway department according to department standards, with a set monetary value that would be deposited with the town as per determined by the highway superintendent, based on the current material rates. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the highway superintendent, planning and codes department, and to the finance manager.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Renadette, second.
Second.
Mr. Cashman. Any discussion?
Yeah, I still wanna see something about, the change in the.
I added, Mike, I added after the first resolve where it says, as appropriate to department schedule when the project is substantially completed or no later than 5 years.
Where was that?
At the end of the first resolve, following substantially completed, put in or no later than 5 years.
Okay, and I had,
Which will follow the
Yeah.
footnote that we have in there.
I had done the same thing in the third line, that the town road with top coat paving to be done within 5 years to allow the highway department. So either way, we're gonna
Either
get
way.
5 years now.
Either way.
I totally agree. Any other discussion?
But I think we should also, I think this is the one where we need to knuckle down and figure out, are we wanting to put something in there about should the materials go past this year though? Say we're in 5 years from now and materials have gone up, are we comfortable with that? I'm certainly not. I mean, we're talking about trying to be, you know, responsible to tax dollars, you know, it's a local developer. I'm certainly in support of getting this road over to the town, you know, he's done his, you know, his due diligence there and the homeowner as well.
But you can have him set the money aside as it is now, and then have a provision that he pay the additional money
Yeah.
At the time of the payment.
At the time of the project.
Yeah.
At the time of the current rates.
Yeah.
If it's done in 3 years, it's whatever the
Whatever the
rates are
rate
in
is.
3 years.
Of course it is.
When I was talking to Jim, I made the suggestion that there had to be some money now, because if you didn't, if you waited till the end, you were gonna get stuck. You all of a sudden, you say, oh, it's been spent.
What they want to do.
Yeah. It's gonna go out of business.
And that's why it's important too to have that time frame. The longer you wait, the probability of the developer not being around extends.
Yeah.
So based on that conversation, I added language relative to, on the last resolve, that the amount will be deposited based on the real cost at the time the road is turned over to the town, with the additional cost incurred at the time of paving borne by the project.
Okay.
So theoretically, you put $10,000 on it because we did it today, that's the cost. But in 3 years, the paving cost was $12,000, then you owe us $2,000.
And this may not be an issue
Additional
if we look at our
material.
policy too.
Well, it makes sense. I think the thing that maybe seems, why are we even having this discussion now? Again, not that long ago, we were doing the whole thing. So then we graduated to, you're doing the road, turn it over, we'll do the top coat. And I think now we're transitioning to the final reality that it's yours.
We've almost handled the labor though, right?
Yes. For correct. It's done by town forces. Materials paid for by the project. So the language that would be added is that the deposit made for materials based on the date of the turning the road over, and any increase at the time of paving, which is anything from, within that 5-year window, would be also paid by the project.
Any increase in material costs.
Material
Right,
costs,
material
correct,
only.
materials. That's good to know. We have 2 items, one to put in at some point in the first resolve that this must be done within 5 years, and the other about the increased cost at the time of top coating borne by the project. Any other adjustments? Oh, one other that we didn't have, I just noticed, is we also have to make the Office of Emergency Services aware of the new road name. So I would also add in the final resolve that we send a copy of the resolution, the Highway Superintendent's letter. You do have a letter from him, which is the typical one when he recommends we take a road over. And we'll share that with OES. Any other discussion? A roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Choose myself due to possible pending litigation.
You recuse yourself?
Possible pending litigation.
Martin Manick,
Yes.
Michael Cashman,
Yes.
Gerard Renadette,
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, resolution carries. We'll get that to you at some point tomorrow with certified copies. Now, we're into the draft collection. Champlain Park water capital closure, plus you're just closing out a project. Stop me if you feel the need. Pat has been looking at investment policy as a draft for you. He would ask that we act on that on the 7th. Highlighted is the area of change.
Bernie, I would challenge Pat, I guess I want to read this over again from a different lens, but we're soon to have a finance committee.
Mhm.
That's exactly what the purpose of the finance committee is. I realize that he may want this on the 7th, but I think it's a great introduction for that group of citizens to sink their teeth into it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's absolutely a perfect primary project for that committee.
Yeah.
It conveys to them, the nature of the responsibilities you're asking them to work with.
Do we anticipate a finance committee within the next 60 days?
I hope so.
I think we've got, I'm trying to remember, 3 or 4 recommendations out of 5.
And,
Pretty close.
and it goes to our, the thing that we're charging, him with to pick a day of the month that he's, you know, interested in having those meetings. So if he can provide it to us in pretty short order, we might be able to get the full board quickly.
Yeah, I had gotten your email on that, Marty, and I agree. I don't know what Pat's sense of urgency is. I don't think there are any crushing deadlines that we need to be meeting.
It might be, the only thing I can think of is that, you know, he might be aware that this is kind of like on one of the controllers'
Right.
tick list, you know, that they,
And we're in the
and so he wants to have it, you know.
beginning stages of an audit.
Could you point out to me where the changes are?
There's a shaded portion, the pages aren't numbered, in section 8. Collateralization of deposits. Maybe you don't have it on yours, I do. Mine's just a photocopy, so I assume you had the same. Section 8, D and E,
D&E, okay.
Those are the ones that are changed?
to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay, I haven't gone through that since I didn't know what part was changed.
Okay, so I will talk with him about that. To me, I agree.
Okay.
If there's some real pressing reason, we'll let everybody know. Next, you have park-based sewer lining capital project closure, which is always good when you close a project. After that is a change in the retirement system standard workday hours. This is basically, we have a couple of positions that were left off.
Yeah, about that, it says, whereas, in the second whereas, it says that it was not established for a lifeguard and seasonal labor. But the only one that we have down is seasonal labor. Is the lifeguard supposed to be left off again?
I have a note of the same thing to ask him about, I don't know. I just noticed late this afternoon lifeguard was not on there. I'm assuming that's,
I thought it should be in the list of.
I assume it's an error of omission.
Oh, lifeguards are on there.
It's not on mine.
Oh, the one I got, it's
Yeah, it is.
dog control
Dog
officer,
control
bus
officer.
driver, and lifeguard.
Ah, it is. It's coupled with
Down
the,
the bottom.
yep, it's coupled with the other group. I didn't see it.
In the next page.
Oh,
Yep, with dog control officer and bus driver. 6 hours.
okay, so that's
Very
where the
good.
lifeguards go.
Yep, I didn't pick up on that either. Then we have the standard workday and reporting resolution, which is coupled with that, of course, just verifying that we will be reporting.
Now, the only reason that we're doing this is because we left off those 2 positions.
Correct. Well, to the best of my knowledge, correct. Tennis court resurfacing, we had that discussion this evening.
Can I say something on that?
Certainly.
When we did the tennis court in Treadwell's Mills, there was a local company that did it, and they actually sub-bid it to the outfit in Vermont, and the outfit in Vermont came and did it, and he paid them.
And I assume he paid them prevailing wage, yes?
Right, correct.
Because we know we have to do that. Interesting how that works, isn't it?
Right, exactly.
Go figure.
Because apparently, he did 2 other courts somewhere else, and this outfit sub-bid it with him and to do it. But they submitted a bid here, which was higher than what they gave to him.
He must have contracted with them for a number, and
He did some in Westport and someplace else at the same time when he did this job, so they gave him a better price to do all 3 of
there's a
them.
backdoor story there that I don't know. Anyway. The next one's a fair, we already discussed that at some length. You have a site plan deposits, pretty boilerplate.
Is that was originally, they were doing it on grass and mud. Is that some kind of more stable?
I don't know what you mean by grass and mud.
Well, when they expanded,
Oh, they're parked
when they
vehicles?
expanded with all the vehicles and they put them over there, they were on mud, I believe.
They haven't
Well, it was
improved.
mud at the time, but
They have an improved parking lot.
they do, okay.
You haven't been over there looking at the new cars down?
I have, but not in that particular area.
Local law number 2, again, we spent some time on. I am, unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to assume the changes that we made that were actually expansions of what would, they'd be purchasing as far as time, would not be a significant change. We need to get that final amended copy to us. Public hearing the 7th, and I would assume we pass it then. And then we have a bus agreement,
She changed them all, but then they changed.
which is pretty typical for summertime as well. And that's about all I have.
This is the change on it.
They changed the sections.
Okay, if nobody has anything else, I'll code it at 8:53.
Okay, so can I ask a question now? On this,
Can I ask you a question before you do that? I'm
I'll let his
looking at
question supersede.
I'm looking at these changes, okay? Why would the duration of the license be changed from 10 to 30 days when we limit, for example, household, home and yard sales?
Garage sales?
To 3 days.
Marty,
The
if you,
big change.
you were at the meeting.
Marty,
Why not red?
if you had somebody selling potatoes out of the back of their truck, would you limit them to only, well, I think we excluded them, so that's not a good example.
Yeah.
We had,
Well, you could use
the lady that sells the
hot dogs and
and
hamburgers
stuff.
out of that bus down there. They used to be in the corner across from TD
Well,
Bank.
now she's down,
Right,
she's on a Casey's place now.
right, she Casey had her moved from that place down to his because he had a lease deal on that property. That's what was written into her rental agreement to leave the bus there.
Do we want to limit somebody like that to 10 days a month, or do we care?
I think a garage sale is a little different too. It's a lot more invasive in the
Well,
community.
the garage sale is specified in here, that can only be 3 days.
Right, and I think it should be.
That's correct.
But I mean, this is another specific incident that Rick brought up about a person that's been operating in the town of Plattsburgh for some time now.
I'm thinking about the guy that comes in, I guess my head was more on the people that come in and rent a motel room.
Right, right.
And that's why I asked that the duration of it be no more than, what was it, 30 consecutive days?
Right.
We put in 30 consecutive days, so if he comes in and says, I'm gonna rent a room at the Holiday Inn for 3 days, and he pays his $150 for the application, and he pays his $100 for the license, and at the end of those 3 days, he said, well, that was pretty profitable, I've got 30 days, I'm gonna go back. If it wasn't consecutive, he has to apply all over again.
Right.
Okay.
If he wants to rent the room for 30 days, then he can buy gold and silver for 30 days.
I'm with you.
But he still has to pay he has to pay $150 non-refundable application fee, plus the extra $100 for the permit, which can be renewed on a 30-day basis if he does it consecutively.
It was an attempt to try and make sure we're not.
If he doesn't do it consecutively, then he has to pay all over again.
If the guy comes in and he asks the right questions and he gets that information up front, he pays, he pays $150, and then he pays $100, and he can function for 30 consecutive days.
Before he has to reapply,
Right.
or renew his license, excuse me, not reapply, renew.
I thought the whole purpose of what we're trying to do was to protect the guy who's paying real property taxes from that kind of a competitor.
And I think we did when we eliminated the opportunity for somebody to pay only $25 and come in here and do business. We now have them classified under the peddler's law, where they have to pay $150 for the non-refundable application, and then they have to pay $100 for the license. Plus, they're going to be renting a space in the town of Plattsburgh, because they gotta operate out of somewhere, they'll be renting a space. So, I think we've made it a little less easy for the people who come in for the weekend.
We also discussed how that group usually has a weekend in Plattsburgh, the next weekend they're in Messina, then they're down in Gloversville, then in Watertown, so they're not 30-day people anymore.
I need to change his mind, and to make him change it, I'm very glad to make it. And just so you know, Father Keith was ticked off.
Pardon?
Father Keith was ticked off, you
I
weren't
wasn't there. Yeah,
Does that answer your question, Marty?
it was my anniversary.
there. Things interfere.
On this paving thing, the town determines when they're gonna put the top coat down?
When?
Yeah.
The highway department.
Yes, the highway superintendent.
He would determine.
Yeah.
On what basis will, I don't know, that's why I'm asking, what basis would he say? Say for like Heritage Heights, I'm assuming that has something to do with.
I mean, we're saying the highway superintendent certainly for a number of reasons and getting it into the schedule and everything else.
Sure, I understood
But the
that.
developer could come back and say, I'm done. I had a boom last year. We're ready. Then as soon as he can get it in, it'll be done.
Well, let's assume, just for argument's sake, that he builds a house this year, and then he builds one the following year, and maybe he's gonna build 10. He's got, permit, or the planning department said he can build 10, but he only gets 5 done in 5 years. Would then the highway department then go in and pave it and say, if you rip it up, it's your problem? You're
Yeah.
gonna have to pay again.
I think that's it, otherwise it's just, it's open-ended and you go forever.
Exactly, but I guess then the highway department would determine the damage when? In 10
Well, I
years,
think-
in
I
20
think-
years, in 5 years, another 5 years, or, I'm just asking.
I think that's a great example of where there's a need for common sense, and I think in that particular case, if the individual comes in and they renegotiate the situation, and they say, I'll put down the added amount of money that's necessary, and we'll do this at the end of 5 more years,
Right.
okay?
Oh, you mean after the first 5 years? Yeah, okay.
Then I think, everybody can agree that. I can tell you there are some residential developments in the town of Plattsburgh that were built 10 years ago and they have not been top coated.
Well, Bernie said that, it was his, is for like that.
Yeah,
And
in
I
some
know,
cases.
Mr. Titherington built his farm on my road, he used day in and day out for 3 years, and the road looks fine. I don't think it has top coat on it, but, I don't know that much about roads, so.
Some of the products have changed, and then in some cases, the amount of traffic on the road is so minimal
Sure,
that you just don't get that much wear.
sure. So it could be that you put the top coat down in 5 years, and then the developer continues to develop, but nothing happens, it looks fine.
Could be. I think that's tough because, as Jim so many times says, we can't write the perfect law for all situations
Sure.
in, the future. And it's very hard to take the current situation and change, amend, extend, because, you want to be firm, fair, consistent. Well, you made feathers dry, they did it. They
It was
complied, everything's good.
It's fine.
So, this we're saying, well, you don't really have to for 5
I'm
years.
Dr. Eaglefeather, and I spent the money, and
Yeah,
I did it. And I'm looking up the road and I'm saying, how come that guy hasn't had to do it? I had to do it,
Sure.
okay?
No, I understand, I was just,
but
It's-
still, in this project, it would be really foolish to force it now. And it
Oh, I
would be
understand, because I-
ridiculous not to allow this home to be sold and occupied.
I realize that.
We want homes to be built, and so
if-
we're caught.
If there were a project and we were mean-spirited and we wanted to, it would be that project that we would stick it to. Okay, we're not doing that.
No,
We're
but-
saying this doesn't make sense and we're trying to find a way to work around it.
no, I understand that, I'm just saying, but theoretically, Jim could say, well, I have time in my schedule like now, in a year, and say, why don't we put the top coat down now?
Good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it's just up to him when
It's up to
his
him.
schedule permits and when he thinks
Most-
it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, but I don't know if the next highway superintendent will be as smart and as, what do I wanna say, will be as amenable to working with the board and the engineering department and the planning department as Jim has been. We could have the next highway superintendent could come in and he's a cowboy and he's gonna do it his way and that can happen.
Let's hope it's Jim.
Let's hope it doesn't happen. Okay?
But for the most part, you know, the highway's always gonna have more work to do than they have time and
Oh,
money.
absolutely.
So why should I go do something that isn't necessary at the moment?
Exactly, no, I understand, I was just wondering how it will be determined, and, you know, if in 5 years, maybe it's still not exactly the right moment, then I guess it's up to the guy who's building and the highway department and the board to
And
determine
see,
whether
that's-
they want to go forward.
But that's why, Trevor, the existing law prohibits them from issuing that C of O.
No, I understand that.
And so we've got to, then it becomes really this group that's got to be able to say, all right,
Well, the
we'll
house is
review
there
our
already.
decisions and we'll be flexible.
Absolutely.
Do we have to? No. But it would be quite foolish.
No, I was just out of curiosity how it would be, how it will work itself out.
Tough to know. That's why I think right now, this is surfaced, and it may happen more frequently than not. That whole policy's got to be revisited. And that may be changed in a way that addresses this in a more positive.
No, exactly, no, I
Is
understand.
that a county policy or?
That's a
That's
town
count.
Okay.
from 2006.
You know, and it's, again, let's talk Heritage Heights. You go in there, I think most of the roads never had a top coat.
No,
Or any requirement to do that.
that's right.
So now, you know, I'm doing extensions, so why need that?
Actually, the binder meets specifications the way that today's market is anyway.
Binder's good road.
Yeah, they don't use the big rocks like they used to, they use a baby binder, that's what they call it.
Yeah,
Rather than.
that's what I meant when I said that, the material has changed.
Absolutely.
It's tough to be flexible.
Yeah.
Don't push me. My wife wonders why I go back home and say, where's the...
Yep, yep.
All right, nothing else?
Oh, thanks. Done enough damage for 1 year.